Before the Army promotes my daughter, it should know she once tried to destroy a decorated officer with a delusion. My mother said it calmly. That was what made the words so effective. Margaret Cross did not storm through the doors or scream from the back row. She had been invited to speak as the proud mother of an officer about to become a captain. She walked to the podium beneath the unit colors, adjusted the microphone, and waited until every conversation in the hall had disappeared. Then she opened a blue folder bearing my full name. First Lieutenant Avery Cross, age 17, psychological concerns. Possible fabricated memories, hostile fixation on father's military service. The words appeared on the projection screen behind her because she had given the file to the ceremony technician under the pretense that it contained family photographs. My promotion portrait vanished. In its place appeared the medical record my parents had used to erase me from their lives 12 years earlier. Rows of soldiers, civilian employees' spouses, and children sat in complete silence. Major Rowan stood beside me with the captain's bars in her hand. My father occupied the center seat of the first row. Retired Colonel Nathan Cross wore his old dress uniform. The jacket fit more loosely than it had in photographs from his command years. His medals still formed a precise rectangle over his chest. A degenerative neurological condition had put him in a wheelchair 3 years earlier, but even seated, he carried the posture of a man accustomed to being saluted. He looked directly at me. For 1 second I thought he might stop her. His fingers tightened around the armrest, that was all. My mother turned another page. At 17, Avery accused her father of falsifying a battlefield report. She claimed she heard a secret recording proving he knowingly caused the death of a soldier under his command. A murmur passed through the room. She was evaluated by a physician and found to be experiencing distorted memory, paranoia, and an unhealthy need to punish her father. That is not what the record says, I said. The microphone clipped to my uniform carried my voice farther than I intended. My mother looked at me with patient sadness. It was the expression she used when she wanted observers to believe she was suffering more than the person she was attacking. You see, she said, even now she cannot separate correction from persecution. Major Rowan stepped toward the podium. Mrs. Cross, this ceremony is not the place to litigate a family dispute. This is not a family dispute, it is a question of judgment. My mother faced the audience again. The Army is preparing to give greater authority to someone who once constructed an elaborate accusation against a decorated officer because she could not accept being disciplined. She placed a second document beneath the projection camera. It was a letter I had written at 17. I recognized the uneven handwriting immediately. I heard a recording. Dad changed the report. Master Sergeant Mercer told him the route was not clear. Please investigate before the tape disappears. My mother had kept it. For 12 years, she claimed the letter was the product of an episode that never happened. Now she was using it as proof that I could not be trusted. Major Rowan removed the microphone from the podium. This ceremony is suspended. The word landed harder than I expected. Suspended, not cancelled, not denied, but the captain's bars remained inside Rowan's closed hand. My mother gathered the folder. My father continued watching me. I searched his face for the smallest sign that he remembered the silver recorder. The dent in its corner, the hiss of old tape, the words I heard before my mother ripped it from my hands. You knew the route wasn't clear. The report will reflect the order that was given. My father looked away, then the installation alarm sounded. 3 sharp tones cut through the hall. Every soldier in the room changed posture. The public address system announced an active security incident in the administrative district. Major Rowan pressed a hand to her earpiece. Her expression tightened. She listened for several seconds, then looked toward the first row. My parents' seats were empty. I had been staring at the screen. I had not seen them leave. Rowan spoke quietly into her radio. Confirm identities. A pause followed, then she looked at me. 2 people are being held inside the historical records facility. I already knew what she was going to say. Margaret and Nathan Cross. 20 minutes after my mother told the Army I could not be trusted, I was ordered to help save her life. The historical records facility stood 3 buildings away from the promotion hall. It was not a vault filled with classified war plans. Most of its contents were administrative retired unit files, disciplinary appeals, old audio recordings, operational reports cleared for archival review, and boxes waiting to be transferred to permanent storage. That did not make the building easy to enter. Exterior doors required credentials. Interior rooms used separate access controls. Cameras covered the main corridors. The man holding my parents had not simply walked in with an old badge. He had arrived dressed like a media restoration contractor and entered behind an approved maintenance team through a service door that had not fully latched. Once inside, he used knowledge from previous contract work to reach the archival processing area before anyone challenged him. His name was Eli Mercer, former Master Sergeant, once assigned beneath my father. Later convicted of disobeying an operational order and endangering his unit. After leaving the Army, he had worked short-term jobs restoring damaged records and converting analog media. Those jobs gave him enough knowledge of the facility to choose the one room with reinforced walls, limited camera coverage, and an internal audio terminal. A civilian archivist escaped before Mercer secured the door. According to her, he carried a handgun and a canvas bag containing wires, a digital clock, and blocks wrapped in gray tape. A possible explosive device was attached to the interior handle. The emergency response team established a perimeter. Bomb technicians deployed a robot. The Installation Emergency Operations Center designated Major Rowan as the on-scene incident commander until the military police commander arrived. After he took over the perimeter, Rowan remained my command liaison, while the military police tactical commander and bomb team lead controlled breach and device decisions. I stood outside with my mother's medical files still visible on a tablet inside the hall behind us. Rowan pointed toward a communication station. "You are observing only." "Yes, ma'am, you have a personal connection to both hostages." "Yes, and potentially to the suspect. I've never met Eli Mercer." "You wrote his name in a letter at 17, because I heard it on a recording." "A recording no one else confirmed. My mother confirmed it existed 5 minutes ago." "She confirmed that you believed it existed. The distinction irritated me because it was correct." Rowan saw that. "Control your need to prove the past," she said. "We have an armed man and 2 hostages in the present." The lead negotiator had been called from another installation. His estimated arrival time was 35 minutes. Until then, the military police commander assigned a local officer to establish communication. A speaker inside the records room activated.
"Mr. Mercer, my name is Captain Dorsey."
"I want to make sure everyone inside is safe," a man answered through the building system. "I didn't ask for you. I'm here to listen. I heard a woman outside tell your people not to rush the door." Rowan looked toward me. Mercer continued. "She understands that your first bad decision will become my last bad decision." "Give me her," Dorsey said. "Tell me what you need." "The woman, he doesn't know who I am," I said. Rowan folded her arms. "That does not make you neutral." He requested the person whose reasoning he heard. He requested a voice. The bomb robot stopped 6 feet from the door. Its camera showed an improvised device secured around the handle. Digital timer, bundled wire, taped components, and a pressure switch positioned where forced entry might trigger it. The timer displayed 52 minutes. A tactical officer recommended immediate preparation for breach before Mercer became more agitated. I heard myself speak. "We do not know what the timer controls." Several heads turned. He established communication, I continued. He let 1 civilian leave. He selected an archive, not a public crowd. He is trying to force a statement or retrieve evidence. A breach now could create the exact panic he prepared for. Rowan studied me. The speaker clicked again. Mercer said, "The woman who said that." "Put her on." He had heard me through an open internal microphone. Rowan moved closer. "You speak only to stabilize him." "Yes, ma'am. You do not question your parents about the ceremony." "Understood. You do not conduct your own historical inquiry." "Understood. If I tell you to stop, you stop." "Yes, ma'am." She handed me the headset. I pressed one side against my ear. "This is First Lieutenant Avery Cross." Mercer gave a short laugh. Cross, his tone changed, not recognition exactly. "Calculation. Any relation to Colonel Nathan Cross?" "He is one of the hostages." The line went silent. When Mercer spoke again, his voice had lost some of its aggression. "You're his daughter." "Yes." "Does he know you're out there?" "I assume he can hear me." "He can." In the background, my mother said my name. Not with fear, with warning. Mercer ignored her. "You told them not to enter." "I told them we lacked enough information." "Then listen carefully. Your father sent us down a route he knew wasn't clear." The courtyard disappeared. For an instant, I was 17 again, crouched beside my father's desk with a silver recorder in my hands. A man's voice pressed through static. You knew the route wasn't clear. My grip tightened around the headset. Mercer continued. He knew, I told him. He sent us anyway. Behind me, Major Rowan wrote one word on a pad and held it up. Stable? I nodded. My heart was moving too fast, but my voice remained level. Where did you hear that sentence? Mercer did not answer. The recorder, I said. My mother cut in. Avery, do not engage with him. He has been obsessed with your father for years. Mercer shouted, tell her. Mr. Mercer, I said, look at the hostages. Is either one injured? They're fine. Is my father still in his wheelchair? Yes. Is my mother restrained? No. Are you pointing a weapon at either of them? A pause. Then we start there. Lower it. No. You asked me to listen. I am listening. Give me something that keeps everyone alive long enough to continue. You sound like him, my father, before he learned how silence could wear a uniform. The first time I saw the silver recorder, I was looking for an envelope containing my school transcripts. My father's study was the one room in our house we were expected to treat like an official office. The books were aligned by subject. His citations and commendations were framed at identical heights. A display case held unit coins and folded maps. The recorder sat in the top drawer beneath a stack of note cards. It was small enough to fit in one hand, with a silver metal casing and a black plastic panel over the tape window. The upper left corner had no dent then. A label on the cassette read Route Review. I pressed play. Tape hiss filled the room. Then two men began arguing. You knew the route wasn't clear. I had an operational timeline. You had a warning. I had conflicting information. You ordered us forward. I ordered you to maintain the schedule. That is not what you wrote. The voices overlapped. I recognized my father. The other man spoke faster, with anger he was trying to control. You're making my delay the cause because you can't admit you made the call. My father answered. The report will reflect the order that was given. That isn't the order you gave. The study door opened. My mother stood there. I stopped the tape. For 1 second, neither of us moved. Then she crossed the room and took the recorder from my hand. What are you doing? Who was Dad talking to? A colleague. Was it about the route where the convoy was attacked? Her expression changed almost invisibly. That tiny change told me more than her answer. You have no context. He said the report would reflect an order. You heard part of an after-action discussion. The other man said Dad changed what happened. No, he said your father misunderstood him. That is not what he said. My mother held out her hand. Give me the tape. It's inside the recorder. Give it to me. I pulled it back. She grabbed my wrist. The recorder fell. It struck the hardwood floor and left a dent in the silver corner. The tape continued turning. My father appeared in the doorway. He looked at the recorder, then at me. Dad, what is this? My mother picked it up. Nathan Stavery, you should not have been in here. That isn't an answer. It was a difficult operation. Did you change the report? He looked at my mother. She stepped between us. You are upset and drawing conclusions from material you do not understand. I understand the words. No, you understand accusation. Those are not the same thing. 3 days later, my mother took me to a family doctor. 3 weeks after that, 2 suitcases were waiting by the front door. The paperwork called it a temporary stabilization arrangement. My father's signature was already at the bottom. At the table, every question I asked became another reason I should not be allowed to ask questions. At the curb, I gave him one final chance, then don't let me leave. He carried my suitcase to my aunt's car, placed it in the trunk, and closed the lid. The sound was soft. That was how he chose. In the present, the possible bomb timer dropped below 45 minutes. Mercer allowed my father to speak. Nathan's voice came faintly through the headset. Avery, he is not thinking clearly. Are you injured? Is Mom injured? No, Mercer said. Ask him about Route Falcon. Nathan replied before I could. It was not called that officially. You see, Mercer said, he corrects the name before the dead. My mother spoke with the same controlled tone she had used at the ceremony. Eli, you have spent 19 years rewriting your own failures. You rewrote them first. Avery, she said, your father was cleared by multiple reviews. Mercer laughed. Reviews based on the report she helped write. Rowan signaled for me to slow the exchange. I said, tell me what happened without asking anyone else to agree. He inhaled. Our unit was assigned to move communications equipment along a secondary route. Intelligence reported possible activity in the area. The route clearance team had not completed its assessment. My father interrupted. The intelligence was unconfirmed. You asked for my version. Continue, I told Mercer. I recommended we hold for 40 minutes. Your father said the schedule mattered more. I delayed part of the movement anyway, the lead vehicles continued. They were hit. How many casualties? 6 wounded. 1 dead. His voice changed on the final word. Specialist Aaron Bell. I wrote the name down. What happened after? I moved people off the route. I altered the formation because the original plan was exposed. My father said you broke communications discipline. I kept the second group from entering the same kill zone. You caused confusion at the command point. I refused to make your mistake twice. Their voices rose. I cut between them. Nathan, your version. He became quiet. It was strange addressing my father by name. Rank would have granted him distance. Dad would have granted him intimacy. I gave him neither. We received multiple assessments, he said. None confirmed the route was compromised. Delay risked losing a narrow operational window. I ordered movement to continue. Did Mercer object? Yes. Did he delay part of the unit? Yes. Did his delay contribute to the formation splitting? Yes. Did the report state you knew the route was not cleared? The route had been reviewed. That is not what I asked. The review was incomplete. Did the report say that? My mother answered. The report accurately reflected the information available at the time. Mercer snapped. That is her language, every line of it. Margaret, I said, I asked Nathan, you are allowing an armed criminal to conduct an inquiry through you. I am establishing what he wants. He wants revenge. Mercer said, I want the recording. What recording? I asked. The one your mother came here to destroy. Major Rowan leaned forward. Clarify, she instructed through my earpiece, Mercer continued. The original cassette was entered into a batch of records transferred from a retired legal office. Your mother learned it had been identified during inventory. How? She has friends in every building where your father's name is still spoken with respect. My mother said, he is inventing this. Then why were you in the archive? I asked. We were invited to review personal materials before disposition. During my promotion ceremony, she did not answer. Mercer did. She brought him here to sign the destruction authorization. The timer showed 41 minutes. The story had split into 3 versions. Mercer claimed my father knowingly sent soldiers into danger and then framed him. My father claimed Mercer's refusal to follow orders worsened an unpredictable attack. My mother claimed both of us had built fantasies around a difficult but legitimate command decision. Each version contained enough truth to survive a first glance. That was the danger. The most effective lies were not constructed from nothing. They were constructed from carefully rationed facts. At 17, I believed facts automatically defeated manipulation. The doctor's office taught me otherwise. My mother sat beside me while Dr. Weller asked what I heard on the tape. I repeated the sentences as accurately as I could. He took notes. Have you felt that your father hides things from you before? Everyone hides some things. Do you often feel excluded from important information? I'm 17. My mother gave a tired smile. The doctor asked whether I had been sleeping. Whether I felt watched. Whether I believed my father's colleagues were part of a conspiracy. I didn't say conspiracy, but you believe official records were changed. That is what the tape said, what you interpreted the tape to say. My mother touched my arm. Avery has always reacted strongly when she feels corrected. I pulled away. The doctor wrote something. The questions changed. They were no longer about the recording. They were about me. My anger became agitation. My insistence became fixation. My refusal to accept my mother's explanation became evidence that I could not tolerate reality. My father sat outside the office. Through the narrow window in the door, I saw him holding his hands together. He never came in. At the command vehicle, Warrant Officer Luis Ortega examined the documents my mother displayed at the ceremony. He specialized in archived media and evidentiary preservation. He was not a magician. He could not restore missing truth by typing quickly on a keyboard. He could identify irregularities. He found several within 20 minutes. The medical file was not a psychiatric evaluation. It was a family physician's note. 2 paragraphs had been added after the original appointment date. An email from my mother requested that the physician document my pattern of creating adversarial memories involving my father's military career. At the bottom of the file, my father had signed a statement confirming that I had previously invented allegations when emotionally overwhelmed. Ortega displayed the signature. I stared at it. My father's voice came through the open channel. What is happening outside? I pressed the headset closer. Nathan, did you sign a statement saying I fabricated memories about your career? My mother interrupted. This is not relevant to the immediate threat. It is relevant to why Mercer chose today. Rowan allowed the question. My father said, your mother believed the physician needed context. Did you sign it? Yes. Did you believe I imagined the recorder? A long silence. I believed you were overwhelmed. That is not what I asked. You heard part of a conversation. So the recorder existed, my mother spoke sharply. Avery, you heard something you were not equipped to understand. The courtyard seemed to narrow around me. For 12 years, she insisted there had been no meaningful recording. Now, under pressure, she had changed the argument. Not that the recorder was imaginary, that I was unqualified to understand it. Mercer said, they told you it never existed, didn't they? I did not answer him. I looked through the command vehicle window toward the archive building. The file on the screen no longer made me doubt my memory. It made me understand the design. My parents had not simply disagreed with me. They created a framework in which every attempt to defend myself became proof of instability. A person could survive one lie. It was harder to survive a system built to reinterpret every reaction. My mother had done exactly that, and she waited until the day of my promotion to activate the same system again. Ortega found the reason. My promotion orders included a follow-on assignment to a historical review panel. The panel examined long-pending requests involving disciplinary records, restored service credit, and newly discovered evidence. Ely Mercer's petition was in the next review cycle. I would not have been permitted to rule on my father's case. The conflict of interest was obvious, but my access to the docket could have triggered a separate review the moment I recognized Nathan Cross's name in a supporting document. My mother knew that. She maintained relationships with officers' spouses, veterans groups, and archival committees long after my father retired. People still called her when ceremonies were planned or old records surfaced. She learned Mercer's name was returning. She learned an analog cassette had been logged during a records transfer. She learned I was about to gain enough professional standing to make my old accusation difficult to dismiss. So she created a preemptive narrative. Avery was delusional. Avery had always targeted her father. Avery was using promotion to continue a family vendetta. If I later mentioned Mercer's file or the recorder, she could point to the ceremony and say the obsession had returned. My mother had not interrupted my promotion because she feared what rank would make me. She feared what it would allow me to read. Ortega pulled the archive access history. My mother's authorization had been issued through a retired officer legacy review program. The request described the materials as personal recordings and duplicate administrative drafts belonging to Nathan. The application had been filed 6 weeks earlier. My father's digital signature appeared beneath hers. The discovery did not surprise me. It still hurt. Until that moment, part of me imagined Margaret brought him to the archive without explaining the full purpose. Perhaps she told him they were reviewing photographs or donation materials for a veterans project. The form removed that possibility. The materials were identified by box number. The cassette was listed as an unverified audio duplicate associated with the Mercer disciplinary file. Nathan signed directly beneath the reference. He knew what they came to remove. I requested permission to question him. Rowan considered the risk before opening the line. Nathan, did you sign the archive disposition request? My father looked toward my mother before answering. Yes, did you read the item description? I reviewed the summary. It named Mercer, it named several files, it identified an analog recording. My mother moved closer to his wheelchair. Avery, your father signed a routine administrative request. Was the recorder routine? It had no established evidentiary value. That is not what I asked. Nathan rubbed one hand across the blanket covering his legs. I believed the matter had already been adjudicated. Then why remove the recording before the review panel could see it? The panel was not entitled to every private discussion. Was it a private discussion or an operational record? He hesitated. My mother answered. It was an unauthorized recording of an informal exchange. Mercer shouted from across the room. It was Nathan's recorder. He used it for personal notes. He recorded the conversation. He did not authorize you to preserve it. I returned my attention to my father. When did you learn I was being assigned to the review panel? His face changed. That was enough. My mother said, your assignment was public. It had not been announced. The military community is not as sealed as you imagine. Did you tell her? I asked Nathan. No. Did you know she planned to use my medical file at the ceremony? He looked toward the floor. My mother's hand tightened on the wheelchair handle. Nathan, he swallowed. She said command needed context before giving you access to sensitive cases. The confession was small compared with what would come later. But it clarified the sequence. He had not merely followed Margaret into the archive. He knew she intended to damage my credibility. He may not have known she would project the file in front of an entire hall. That distinction did not make him innocent. It only measured the exact distance he allowed her to travel before deciding the outcome was no longer his responsibility. You signed the request, I said. You knew she was contacting my command. You came to the ceremony. I did not know she would speak publicly. But you knew she wanted me removed. He closed his eyes. I thought it would prevent a conflict. Mercer laughed bitterly. That is what he calls everything after he chooses himself. Preventing a conflict. My father looked older beneath the red emergency light. I did not want you involved in something that would hurt you. It already hurt me 12 years ago. I believed reopening it would make things worse. For whom he did not answer, my mother did, for everyone. That word revealed the hierarchy she had always enforced. Everyone meant the reputation, the marriage, the medals, the official history, and the community built around their version. I had never been included in everyone. I had been the thing everyone needed protection from. I asked Mercer about the device on the door. You brought a weapon and what appears to be an explosive. I brought leverage. You attached it to a door. No one was listening without it. That does not make it less dangerous. It isn't what they think. What is it? Insurance. That word does not help you. I built it to keep them from rushing in. Can it detonate? He did not answer directly. The bomb technician sent enlarged images from the robot. The bundle contained wires and a digital display. One conductor appeared to loop back into the same taped block rather than run toward a power source. When Mercer described the device, he used an electrical term incorrectly. I noted the discrepancy. It may not be functional, I told Rowan. May not be, she repeated. The visible circuit does not appear complete. Can you certify it as inert? No. Then you provide observations. The bomb team makes the technical judgment. Yes, ma'am. She was right. Being observant did not grant me permission to risk other people's lives on an inference. Mercer heard part of our exchange through the speaker. The bomb is the second most dangerous lie in this room, he said. What is the first? I asked. He looked toward my father. The man everyone taught you to salute. My father had once been easy to admire. He did not shout at subordinates in public. He remembered junior soldiers' names. He wrote condolence letters by hand. At community events, he spoke about accountability and the moral weight of command. After the attack, his career accelerated. The official report described him as a leader who restored order during an unexpected strike. Eli Mercer was described as an experienced non-commissioned officer whose deviation from instructions complicated the response. My father received recognition, Mercer received punishment. At home, Nathan rarely mentioned the operation. When he did, he spoke about the dead with solemnity and Mercer with disappointment. I believed the contradiction between that public father and the man on the recorder could be resolved if I found the complete tape. At 29, I understood the more painful possibility. People did not have to be entirely false to commit devastating betrayals. My father could have written sincere condolence letters. He could have cared about his soldiers. He could have made one terrible decision and then spent 19 years allowing other people to pay for it. Those truths could exist together. That did not reduce his responsibility. It made it human enough to frighten me. The timer reached 30 minutes. Margaret began working on Mercer. Her tone remained calm, almost maternal. Eli, you know they will not reopen your case after this. Stop talking. You could have pursued lawful review. I did. You frightened people. You sent letters to our home. I sent petitions. You waited outside veterans' events. To ask Nathan to speak, you followed us here because you came to destroy evidence. Whatever merit your grievance once had is gone now. Mercer moved closer to the door. The tactical marksman adjusted position. My mother continued, you have become exactly what the report said you were. Unstable, defiant, unable to control yourself when challenged. I recognized the structure. She was doing to him what she had done to me. Provoking a reaction, then using the reaction to validate the accusation. Mercer's breathing accelerated. If you step toward that door with the weapon visible, I said, you may be shot. My mother said they are going to shoot you anyway. They have not moved. They are waiting for Avery to finish pretending she cares. Mercer took another step. The tactical officer reported movement. The tactical commander raised a hand, preparing to authorize force if Mercer presented a direct threat. I spoke before he reached the door. She doesn't need to escape you. Mercer stopped. My mother went silent. She needs you to die before you are believed. No one moved. If you die pointing a weapon at the door, tomorrow's headline will not be about the recorder. It will be about an unstable former soldier attacking a retired colonel. Mercer looked toward Margaret. She will say the tape was altered by you. She will say your petitions were obsession. She will use this room as the final page of the story she started 19 years ago. My mother's expression appeared briefly on the internal camera. The composure slipped, only for a second. Mercer stepped away from the door. What do you want me to do? Move the weapon away from both hostages? No, then sit down. After several seconds, he sat on a metal storage case. The marksman reported that he no longer had a direct angle. The immediate threat lowered. Margaret looked at the camera. You always did enjoy turning people against their family. You are not trying to survive this room, I said. You are trying to control how it will be remembered. Her face hardened. Mercer said, show her the recorder. My mother turned toward him. You don't have it, he smiled. I put it somewhere you could not reach without exposing yourself. He pointed toward my father's wheelchair. Nathan looked down. Beneath the seat was a narrow equipment pouch. My mother moved instantly. Do not touch that. My father's hand froze. Mercer aimed the gun toward the floor beside the wheelchair. Open it, Nathan, my mother said. Leave it alone. He looked at her, then at the internal camera, then for the first time that day he disobeyed her. He opened the pouch. Inside was the silver recorder. Even through the grainy camera image, I recognized the dent in the upper left corner. The shape I had seen falling toward the study floor 12 years earlier. My memory was no longer a private object my mother could redefine. It was sitting beneath my father's hand. Mercer had taken the recorder from a temporary processing shelf before my parents arrived. He claimed it had been mislabeled inside a box transferred from a retired legal office. Ortega asked him to connect it to a portable audio interface stored in the room. Mercer knew the equipment. His contract work had included analog conversion. He placed the recorder beside the terminal. The cassette turned. Tape's hiss entered the command vehicle, then a fragment of my father's voice. Timeline cannot static, a click. Mercer's voice, younger and stronger. Root wasn't a second click, silence. The tape resumed several seconds later. Report will reflect then a high whine and blank tape. My mother said he altered it. Mercer struck the table with his palm. You cut it. You have possessed it for 4 hours. You worked in media restoration for years. You could manufacture anything. Ortega examined the live waveform. He identified physical edits where the tape had been cut and rejoined. He could not yet determine who made them or when. The recorder proved the conversation existed. It did not prove its full meaning. Mercer's strongest evidence had become another incomplete object. That made him more dangerous. He had built his plan around forcing a confession if the tape failed. I watched my father. He positioned 2 fingers against the wheel rim. Then moved them twice, a signal. When I was young, Nathan taught me simple hand cues during hiking trips. Stop, move. Look, the gesture meant wait. He shifted his hand toward a cabinet near Mercer. Mercer placed the handgun on top of it whenever he leaned over the audio equipment. My father looked toward the camera, then put his palm against the wheel and tilted it slightly. He was proposing to drive the chair into Mercer's legs. I could enter during the distraction and pull my mother toward the door. For the first time since the ceremony, my father appeared to be choosing action. The direct line rang. Nathan spoke quietly. I'm here, I can help. My mother turned toward him. What are you doing? Nothing. He kept his eyes on the camera. I failed you once, he said. Let me help you now. The sentence reached the exact part of me trained to recognize a long-awaited answer. Major Rowan heard it too. She muted the line. No. He can create a distraction. He is mobility impaired, emotionally compromised, and seated beside an armed man. He knows the room. He is also the reason this situation exists. We may not get another opening. We have a possible explosive device and incomplete visibility. You do not enter because your father finally said the sentence you wanted. Her words were accurate. That did not make them easy to accept. Mercer demanded that I come inside. He no longer trusted the external system. He believed the tactical team was using the delay to prepare a breach. He offered to release my mother if I entered unarmed. Margaret objected immediately. That was the detail Rowan carried to the tactical commander. My mother did not want me near the recorder. She did not want me inside the same room as Nathan when he was considering action. Rowan moved me away from the communication station. No one is ordering you into that room, he requested me. That does not create an obligation. He may release Margaret. Or he may add you as a third hostage. He wants someone who understands the recording. He wants an audience with emotional value. I looked through the vehicle window. On the internal feed, my father's hand remained near the wheel rim. The signal had stopped. Margaret was watching him more closely. If he believes I'm willing to listen, he may lower the weapon. May we are running out of time. The timer may be false. And until the bomb team confirms that, we treat it as real. Rowan placed both hands on the edge of the console. You are combining 3 objectives: stabilize Mercer, release a hostage, preserve the evidence. And force your father to choose you. I looked at her. That is not part of the operation. It is part of why you believe the risk is acceptable. The accuracy of the statement made me angry. I can separate the personal element. No one separates an injury by denying it exists. She pointed toward the screen. Your father gave you a hand signal. You saw cooperation because you needed cooperation. He knows the room. He also signed the archive request. He may be trying to correct that. He may be frightened. Both can be true, yes, that is why neither is a plan. For several seconds, only radio traffic filled the vehicle. The tactical team had mapped 2 possible entrances. The main door remained obstructed by the suspected device. A maintenance corridor led toward a service panel behind the shelving, but opening it would create noise and might expose officers before they could see Mercer's position. The bomb technicians needed more time. Mercer was becoming less patient. My mother was becoming more active. The situation would not remain stable simply because none of the available options was safe. Rowan displayed the exchange conditions approved by the tactical commander and bomb team lead. I would enter without a weapon or external body armor. A concealed receiver would remain in my collar. Margaret would be ordered toward the door before I crossed the marked line inside the room. Nathan was not to move unless I used a specific verbal cue. If Mercer changed position, pointed the weapon directly at me, or refused the release, I would withdraw. The tactical team retained authority to intervene. I read every condition twice. Then Rowan asked the question I had avoided. What happens if your father does nothing? I looked toward the feed. He already told me he would help. That was not my question. The answer took longer than it should have. I continue the negotiation. You do not confront him. No, you do not alter the plan to create another opportunity. No, you do not stay because leaving would feel like letting him fail you again. I forced myself to look at her. No, Rowan studied me long enough to decide whether the answer belonged to the officer or the daughter. Finally, she nodded. Saving them and trusting them are 2 different operations. At the time, I thought she was warning me about Mercer. Later, I understood she was warning me about my father. Before leaving the vehicle, I removed my promotion packet from beneath my arm and placed it on the console. The ceremony had been stopped. The rank had not been denied. Yet I had been carrying the folder as though the mourning still required repair. Rowan noticed. You don't need that in there, I know. I set it down. Then I walked toward the archive without anything in my hands. The door opened 18 inches. I removed my sidearm radio and outer vest. The possible explosive remained attached to the handle, forcing me to turn sideways as I passed. Inside, emergency lights cast the room in a dull red glow. Rows of shelving created narrow corridors filled with boxes. The digital timer near the door showed 19 minutes. Up close, the device looked less convincing. The taped blocks seemed too light. A wire terminated beneath an empty plastic bracket. But I could not certify it as safe from a glance. Mercer stood 10 feet away. He was thinner than I expected, with gray stubble and deep shadows beneath his eyes. His hand shook around the handgun. My father sat beside the audio terminal. My mother occupied a chair near him. She was not restrained. That told me Mercer had never fully understood which person in the room he needed to control. The silver recorder turned slowly on the table. Mercer motioned for me to stop. Show me your hands. I did. You look like him, I have been told. You heard the tape, yes, they made you think you imagined it. Yes, his expression softened, then hardened again. That means you understand. I understand what it is like not to be believed. I do not understand holding two people at gunpoint. They are not innocent. Innocence does not determine whether I protect a life. My mother laughed softly. There she is, the performance. Mercer pointed toward her, moved to the door. Margaret remained seated. You cannot trust her, she told him. Avery has wanted to punish Nathan since she was a teenager. I looked at my father. His right hand rested on the wheel. The cabinet where Mercer placed the weapon, while adjusting the recorder, stood within reach of the chair. The plan was possible, not safe. Possible, Margaret, I said. Stand and move toward me. She looked at Nathan. Do not cooperate. Mercer raised the weapon. Move, she rose slowly. Nathan adjusted his chair. I said the agreed phrase. Dad, look at the north wall. His hand tightened. He was supposed to drive forward. Margaret stopped beside him. She placed one hand on his shoulder. Don't. One word. Nathan froze. The room changed. His fingers left the wheel. Mercer looked from him to me. What was that? No one answered. He understood. You planned something. Avery Rowan said through the concealed receiver, withdraw if possible. Mercer pointed the gun at me. Stay. My mother stepped away from the door and returned behind my father's chair. Nathan whispered, I'm sorry. It was not the first time he had chosen her. It was simply the first time I watched the decision happen while a gun was pointed at my chest. Mercer's hand shook harder. You used me. No, I attempted a controlled exchange. You lied. I negotiated. You came in here to take the tape. I came in because you asked for me. My mother spoke behind him. She manipulates language. She always has. Mercer turned slightly toward her. That gave me half a step, not enough to reach him. Enough to move away from the direct line of fire. The tactical team requested authorization to enter. The tactical commander delayed. The device remained unverified. Mercer backed toward the recorder. You're all the same. No, I said, we are all responsible for different choices. He laughed bitterly. That is what officers say when they want blame divided until no one carries it. Then play the tape. It's damaged or incomplete. He changed the report. I believe he may have. May? I will not give you a certainty the evidence does not support. His face twisted. I lost 19 years, and that loss does not make every conclusion automatically true. My mother smiled. She thought caution meant I was moving toward her version. It did not. It meant I would not replace one manipulated story with another simply because it hurt the people who hurt me. Ortega's voice entered my concealed receiver. The command link clipped the first pass, Ortega said. The archive terminal cached a cleaner local copy of the same playback. We did not recover anything from the missing splices. Not restored tape, just a cleaner capture of what had actually played. Mercer heard the faint sound. What did he say? I looked toward the terminal. Connect the external speaker, he hesitated, then pressed the key. Static filled the archive. A younger Eli Mercer spoke. You knew the route wasn't clear, my father answered. I had a schedule and an incomplete warning. You had my recommendation. I had 3 assessments. 2 were outdated. You delayed the rear element without authority. I prevented them from following the lead vehicles into the attack. You disrupted the command structure because the command structure was sending us into fire. A pause. Then Nathan's voice lower. The report will reflect the order that should have been given. Not the order that was given. The order that should have been given. Mercer answered, that isn't the order you gave. My father said nothing. The recording continued. A chair moved. Then my mother's voice entered the room. Younger but unmistakable. Nathan, stop arguing with him. Mercer said, this is an official discussion. Margaret replied, then speak officially. The route was assessed. Eli deviated. The attack occurred. Do not add language that creates uncertainty where none is useful. There was uncertainty, Mercer said. There is always uncertainty. Reports record decisions, not panic, Nathan said. Margaret. You restored control. He did not. That is the story supported by the outcome. The audio cut. Every person in the archive remained still. The tape did not prove my father intentionally sent soldiers to die. It proved something more ordinary and more credible. He received incomplete information, Mercer objected. Nathan chose speed over caution. The attack occurred. Afterward, he considered writing the report as though he issued the safer order he wished he had given. My mother supplied the language that converted regret into official history. Mercer's later actions were described as the source of disorder. Nathan signed. He made the first mistake. Margaret designed the cover. He accepted the version that protected him. And when I heard part of the evidence, both of them turned me into a patient. Mercer stared at the recorder. You heard her, yes. Nathan changed the report. He approved a report that concealed uncertainty and misrepresented your actions. Say he lied, my father closed his eyes. Mercer pointed the weapon at him, then make him say it. Nathan, I said, tell him what you signed. My father looked at my mother. She stood behind the wheelchair with one hand on the handle. You are under duress, she said. Anything you say is compromised. Mercer shouted, you have used that excuse for 19 years. Nathan's breathing became shallow. I made a difficult decision. Mercer stepped closer. You made a bad decision, yes. And then, the report summarized a complex event. It blamed me, it documented your deviation, it erased my warning. Nathan said nothing. Mercer's gun rose. You let them take my rank. I did not control the disciplinary board. You gave them the report. I gave them the record as it existed. You made the record. My mother said, Eli, this will not restore what you lost. He turned toward her. You wrote it. I organized Nathan's notes. You wrote it. I helped him communicate a chaotic event. You destroyed the tape. I preserved the relevant portions. You cut it. I removed privileged family material. Mercer's face changed. That was the closest she came to admitting physical alteration. You put Avery in a doctor's file. My mother looked at me. Avery was distressed. You made her sound insane. She was a child accusing her father of killing soldiers. I accused him too, and look where your accusations led you. Mercer lifted the gun toward my mother. My father moved. Not toward me, toward her. Eli, don't tell the truth. Nathan gripped the wheelchair arm. Mercer aimed directly at Margaret's chest. Tell it, my father broke. I knew the route assessment was incomplete. The words came quickly now. I received Mercer's warning. I believed delay would jeopardize the mission. I ordered the lead element forward. Mercer did not lower the weapon, and the report? I knew the final report did not fully describe the warning. Did it falsely characterize my actions? Yes. Did you sign it? Yes. Did Margaret help create it? Nathan looked at his wife. Yes. My mother's face hardened. Did you know Avery heard the recording? Yes. Did you know the medical file was being used to discredit her? Nathan began crying. Yes. Why did you allow it? Because if the recording surfaced, the review would reopen. And my career would have ended, and mine? Mercer asked. Nathan whispered. I told myself the board made its own decision. Mercer's voice shook. You let me carry it, yes. The answer should have freed something inside me. For 12 years, I imagined my father admitting I had been right. I thought the moment would return my stolen certainty. Instead, I watched where his eyes went after each sentence. Not to me, to Margaret. Mercer took another step toward her. Nathan's voice rose. Please don't hurt my wife. There it was. The truth beneath the truth. He had not confessed when I was 17. Not when my mother built the medical file. Not when he signed the statement calling my memory unreliable. Not when they sent me away. Not when Margaret destroyed my promotion. Not when I entered the archive and trusted him to move. He confessed when the gun turned toward his wife. My father finally told the truth. He just still wasn't telling it for me. Mercer's arm began to tremble. The confession had not given him what he expected. 19 years of pain had compressed his goal into one sentence. Nathan must admit it. Now Nathan had. Specialist Bell remained dead. Mercer's career remained destroyed. He was still standing in an archive with a gun, 3 hostages, and a fake bomb attached to the door. Nothing had reversed. That was when he became most dangerous. What happens now, he asked. You put the weapon down. And they arrest me. Yes, my case, the recording, archival records, and Nathan's statement will be preserved. You cannot promise review. No, you cannot promise restoration. No, you cannot promise anything. I can promise that if you fire, the conversation ends with this room instead of reaching the people who can examine it. My mother said, he knows no one will help him. I turned toward her. Stop, she smiled faintly. You still believe systems correct themselves? No, I believe evidence needs living witnesses. Mercer looked at the timer. 7 minutes remained. They'll rush the door when it reaches 0. Does the timer activate anything? He did not answer. I looked at the wiring again. The taped blocks had shifted slightly when I entered. One corner revealed white packing foam. The wire attached to the door switch ran into an empty battery shell. The display was powered separately. The device appeared theatrical. Dangerous theater, because the tactical team could not assume it was harmless. I moved my left hand to my sleeve and traced a small circle with one finger. The prearranged signal for suspected inert device. Rowan acknowledged through my receiver. The bomb team still required caution, but the information changed the entry options. Mercer noticed my hand. "What did you do?" I gave them an observation about the device. His face tightened. "It kept them outside. It also made every person here believe one wrong movement could kill us." No one listens without fear. That may be true. He looked surprised, but when you use fear to force truth, you become responsible for what fear does next. The lights went out. The tactical commander ordered power cut to the archive wing. The timer remained illuminated on its independent battery. A directional alarm sounded from the far side of the room. Mercer turned. A secondary access panel opened behind the shelving. The tactical team entered through the maintenance corridor. No theatrical storm of gunfire. 2 officers moved behind shields. A third issued clear commands. Eli placed the weapon on the floor. Mercer swung back toward the door. I stepped between the muzzle and my parents. Not because they deserved my body as a shield, because I was the closest person in position and the officers needed 1 second. Mercer saw me, his grip loosened. "Don't make the report say I tried to kill you," he said. "Then do not try." The handgun fell and officers secured it. Another guided Mercer to the floor and restrained him. The possible explosive was isolated. The bomb team later confirmed that the taped blocks contained foam and metal washers. The timer activated nothing. My mother immediately began speaking. Avery coordinated this with him. No one had asked her a question. She knew about the recorder. She used her position to force Nathan into a false statement. Major Rowan entered through the service corridor. "The negotiation system recorded the entire exchange," she said. Margaret turned to her. "My husband spoke under threat." "That will be considered. My daughter has been obsessed with this allegation since adolescence." "That will also be considered." Margaret looked at me. She expected anger. She needed it. A visible reaction would allow her to return to the oldest version of me. Unstable. Vindictive. Unable to separate memory from fact. I gave her nothing. The recorder continued turning on the table. For the first time, its existence did not depend on my insistence. Other people could hear it. Other people could examine it. I no longer had to fight alone simply to prove the object was real. The investigation lasted months. Forensic testing dated the tape splices to years before Mercer's recent possession. Earlier drafts acknowledged incomplete route clearance, and communications logs confirmed that he warned command before delaying part of the formation without authority. His choice complicated control. It may also have kept more vehicles out of the attack zone. At the review, I said, "I am not here to replace one clean story with another." Mercer still faced prosecution for the gun and fake bomb, while his original disciplinary case was reopened independently. My father's awards and record entered review. My mother faced inquiries into evidence interference and record manipulation. My medical file received an official addendum, and my promotion was cleared. The truth did not erase anyone's consequences. It only made sure each person carried the right one. I submitted one formal statement regarding Mercer's review. I did not argue that he should be restored automatically. I did not call him a hero. I documented what I heard, what the recovered recording contained, and how the official report differed from the earlier communications. I also documented the handgun, the fake device, the threats, and the moment he aimed at my mother. Mercer's attorney asked whether I would describe him as rational during the incident. I refused the word. He had shown planning. He had also shown obsession, exhaustion, fear, and impaired judgment. Reducing him to either a madman or a righteous whistleblower would repeat the same error my parents made constructing a clean roll and forcing every fact inside it. At a preliminary review, I watched Mercer through a video connection. He appeared in a plain detention uniform. Without the weapon and archive shelves around him, he looked less dangerous. He also looked less powerful. "Did you believe the army would listen after the hostage situation?" one reviewer asked. "No," Mercer said. "Then why do it?" "Because I needed Nathan Cross to say it where someone else could hear." Was the recorder not enough? It was damaged. Was the written evidence not enough? They ignored written evidence for 19 years. The reviewer paused. "Do you understand that your actions may now prevent some forms of relief?" Mercer looked toward the camera. "I understand that no one was reviewing the case before." That was his tragedy. He may have been correct that ordinary channels failed him. He was wrong to conclude that failure gave him ownership over other people's lives. When I was invited to speak, Mercer looked directly at my image. "I am not here to recommend an outcome," I said. "I am here to prevent one record from replacing another." I described the warning he gave before movement. I described my father's decision. I described the misleading report, then I described the archive. Mercer listened without expression. At the end, he said, "You could tell them I never intended to hurt you. I cannot testify to your intention. You stepped in front of the gun because you knew. I stepped in front of it because I did not know." He looked away. That distinction mattered. My parents treated uncertainty as material to be removed from the official story. I would not do the same, even for a man whose evidence helped expose them. The panel ordered an independent historical review. It made no promise of restored rank, retirement credit, or benefits. Mercer still faced prosecution for the archive incident. The truth did not rescue him from every consequence. It only ensured that the consequence recorded 19 years earlier would finally be examined honestly. After the hearing, Ortega met me outside. They asked whether you wanted a digital copy of the restored tape. "Not yet. You may need it for later proceedings." "Then send it to counsel. You don't want to hear the complete reconstruction?" I looked through the courthouse windows at Mercer being escorted down a separate corridor. For 12 years, I wanted every missing second. Now I understood that no recording could contain all the decisions made after it ended. The tape captured my father's fear. It did not capture him signing the report. It did not capture Margaret shaping the medical file. It did not capture the packed suitcases or the trunk closing. Evidence could establish an event. It could not explain away character. "No," I said, "I've heard enough to know what happened." The Army offered to reschedule my promotion in the same hall. I declined. I did not want another audience. I did not want my rank to become a public answer to my mother. At sunrise on a cold training field, Major Rowan pinned the captain's bars onto my uniform. Ortega stood nearby with 4 members of the response team. No projection screen, no family photographs, no retired colonel in the front row. After securing the insignia, Rowan stepped back. "Saving them and trusting them were 2 different operations," she said. "You completed the first, I waited. You are not required to complete the second." I saluted, she returned it. The ceremony lasted less than 5 minutes. It was enough. My father entered a military medical facility while the review continued. His condition had worsened during the investigation. He was not under arrest at the time, but his movement and communications were restricted by the legal process. I visited once. He sat near a window overlooking a courtyard. No dress uniform, no medals, a blanket covered his legs. For the first time in my life, there was nothing around him, instructing me how important he had been. He looked like an aging man who had made choices. "Avery," he said. "Captain Cross," a weak smile appeared, I heard. I sat across from him. He studied the new rank. "I kept every article about you." I said nothing. "Your commissioning photograph, your first assignment announcement. The piece about the flood evacuation. Why? Because I was proud of you." In private, his smile disappeared. "I did not know how to contact you. You knew. Your mother thought space was best. You agreed with whatever kept the house quiet." He looked toward the courtyard. "I made a mistake in the field." "You made a mistake in the field. Then you made a decision every day afterward." His jaw tightened. "It is easy to judge with 19 years of distance. I am not judging the uncertainty before the attack. I am judging what you did after. I was responsible for an entire command. You were responsible for the people the report buried too." Mercer disobeyed and the report hid why. He was not innocent. I never said he was. That unsettled him. He had spent years defending himself against an accusation that required him to be entirely guilty. He did not know how to answer a truth that allowed complexity while still holding him responsible. "Your mother was trying to protect the family," he said. "She protected your reputation. You let her use me as the wall around it. She was afraid, so was I. You were young, that made it easier, not less wrong." His hands moved over the blanket. "I loved you, I believe you." He looked up. "That is what makes it worse." Pain crossed his face. I did not enjoy it. Revenge had never been the pleasure of hurting him. It was the refusal to keep protecting him from the meaning of his choices. "I followed your career," he said. "I knew when you graduated. I knew when you made First Lieutenant. I knew about the promotion. Why was it easier to be proud of me in private than defend me in public?" He opened his mouth, closed it. I waited. He could not answer. He changed direction. I told the truth in the archive. You confessed when Mercer pointed the gun at Mom. That is not fair. It is exact. I was trying to protect both of you. When I entered the room, you promised to help. I could not risk triggering him. Mom said one word, you do not understand our marriage. I understand the order of your loyalties. He looked away. I would have confessed eventually. You had 12 years. I was ashamed. You allowed me to carry your shame as a diagnosis. His breathing became uneven. I almost stopped. The old instinct remained, protect him from discomfort because discomfort might become silence, and silence might become abandonment. Then I remembered that he survived every year I spent without a father. He could survive one honest conversation. You had chances, I said. When I found the recorder, when Mom took me to the doctor. When you signed the statement, when you sent me away. When she stopped my promotion, when I entered the archive. When Mercer first asked you to speak, he closed his eyes. You spoke when the gun turned toward her. I love your mother. I know, I loved you too. I know. He stared at me as though agreement should have softened the conclusion. It did not. Love was not the missing evidence. Courage was. Priority was, action was. He loved me. He simply loved his wife, his medals, and the life built around his silence more. I want a chance to repair this, he said. You want to feel forgiven. Is that wrong? It is incomplete. What do you want from me? Tell the truth when it costs you something and no weapon is forcing you. I already lost everything. No, other people lost things for you. Now you are beginning to feel the cost yourself. He looked down. For a moment, I saw the father who once taught me how to tie climbing knots and change a tire. That man had been real. So was the man who signed the report. So was the man who sat outside the doctor's office. So was the man who stopped moving when Margaret said don't. Understanding that did not require me to choose one version and erase the others. I don't know what happens between us, I said. Will you come back? I will decide based on what you do next, not what you say here. He nodded slowly. As I stood, he reached toward me. His hand stopped before touching my sleeve. Avery. I waited. I am sorry, it was not enough, but it was finally directed toward the correct person. I left without answering. Weeks later, an evidence officer asked whether I wanted the recorder when the legal holds ended. No, keep it with the case. The tape proved the conversation existed. The records proved the report changed. My parents' choices proved the rest. The recorder stayed behind because the past no longer needed to travel everywhere I went. The captain's bars on my uniform did not prove I had been right. They proved their version of me had failed to stop my life. In the archive, my father finally told the truth and still chose my mother. That answer hurt more than the mystery. It was also the last answer I needed. I walked away without waiting for either of them to choose me again.